Business Spotlight, brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.
I'm Sonia Farrell. This is Business Spotlight in partnership with Cross Rhythms City Radio and Baba Baboon. Joining me in the studio this week, we've got the lovely Steve Timmis, who's from Sempar. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Sonia.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Are you?
I'm good, thank you. Before we go anywhere, I want you to explain, if that's okay, what is Sempar?
Okay, so Sempar, we're a firm of accountants, business advisors, tax advisors, but really at the start with Sempar, Sempar means unparalleled. Mm-hmm. So when we started the business, we needed a name. I didn't really want to be too traditional in terms of having Timmis & Co. We very much wanted something we could put our heart and soul into. Mm-hmm. So I was looking for one word name. So as most people do, they start scrolling the internet, putting words in and playing around, and quite quickly, I was doing this, and then I was playing with my wedding ring on my hand, and inside my wedding ring, my wife had written Sempar, but it's spelt slightly differently, and in Latin that means always. Yep. But in Portuguese, Sempar means unparalleled or no equal. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of born out of that, really. It was very much for me and my business partner, Eludia. We just wanted something that we could put our heart and soul into, and what, in terms of our strategy, what we thought an accountancy practice should look like, that we could just get behind. We did have some challenges with our creatives who were putting our branding together and things like that. We had a very funny conversation where they just couldn't get their head around, because they said, well, you're not Portuguese, why would you want a Portuguese name? We said, well, it's not really a Portuguese name, it's just our name that we're going to put our heart and soul into, and one day it will mean, hopefully, what we wanted it to mean, which is that unparalleled. So we've always had, what's great about it is it always keeps that in mind, that whenever we're going to do something, whenever we're going to make a change, whenever we're going to bring new service in, or our current service has to have no equal, has to be done in a way that we don't almost see that we've got competitors. We stand out alone in the way we do things, and hopefully our clients feel that that's who we are, really. So
yeah, I'm interested. I'm always interested to find out the backstory of why people call their companies, their names like they do. And you mentioned there, Sempar is an accountancy firm. Yeah. Now, I've had a little sneak around on your website, and it also says, if we can get this right, Sempar says it is a culture-first accountancy business.
Absolutely.
Now, you've mentioned the name. I can kind of see where this is going and how this can perhaps lead into it. But what exactly does that mean?
So for us, it's about making cultural decisions above and beyond financial decisions. So most, generically, most businesses run their decision making based on financial outcomes. If I spend that, I get this, and it's a very cost benefit way of looking at things. The cultural way is a lot longer, so it's you don't necessarily get your return in that year. You don't necessarily can count that return or be able to measure it at some point, but it's having the belief that if you treat everybody right, and you create the right environment, and you have the right output of business, and you do the right thing, that the right things happen. And so when we say we're a culture first accountancy practice, we make decisions based on those outcomes, rather than, well, if we spend X, we're going to lose X, or and then our whole mission and vision is around that, taking that people first approach, being rewarded for that people first approach, and then reinvesting that reward in our people. So our people for us are our clients, our team, and our kind of surrounding community. So we reinvest back into the team, the people, and the community, over and above the reward to the individual owners of the business, and that belief that you get tested on it all the time. We're still accountants at heart, so we'll get tested that we've got pressure now to make a financial decision. But there's a bigger cultural play. We've got to take the bigger cultural play, and if we don't, the culture and environment that Sempar's created will slowly turn into a more traditional business, and that will disappear. It have to be tested on it. You have to deliver on it. It has to be consistent, and that's what we've done over the last 10 years. So we're 10 in March. So over that 10 years, that's what's helped us create that environment, create that culture, create that stickiness where we don't lose our team to our competitors. We don't lose our clients to our competitors, and that's enabled our growth. So these decisions that you make that are very much difficult to do and hard, go against certain financial principles, but they've enabled our growth to be one of the region's fastest growing accountants, biggest accountants. If you look at the accountants around us, have all very established, been in the county a long time. We were sort of the best kept secret for a long time, and
you're not anymore.
Put our head above the parapet a little bit more now, but for a long time we were just getting our heads down, working for clients, creating that culture and not really shouting too much about ourselves. We obviously do that a little bit more today, but really that approach has enabled that growth. And I think if we'd have took a very financial, pure business strategy approach to what we've done, I don't think we would have grown as quickly as we have.
Yeah, and more, congratulations on all of that as well. And it's coming up for your 10-year birthday, which I'm sure we'll hear more about as well. But just going on that, from what you've just said there, Steve, as business owners and everything, it can be sometimes just one-way traffic where you are just counting the numbers. You are getting lost and maybe even pressures of thinking, right, I need to earn that this month, I need to get that in this month, I need to get that in the next 6 months or the next quarter, however you want to describe it. And sometimes that can take away, I'm going to say, it could perhaps take away the passion and the real why, and why you set up business in itself. Have you come across clients like that?
100%, and I think that it is difficult, and there's a lot of responsibility, and that responsibility as being a business owner is only got bigger, with changes in tax regulations and the consistency of changes in terms of things like pension and responsibility being put on that business owner, well-being and mental health. The wave of that responsibility gets bigger and bigger. They're not just looking after themselves, they're not just driving a business for their own end, they're trying to create something that now has to pay for its team, now has to make sure their team are well. So I 100% understand that, and you see that with clients and other businesses in the area where that creates a bit of overwhelm, I think, and you can get into the minutiae. And I think the beauty of having that kind of culture first approach, the success you get from that approach is that you really aren't micromanaging something. You're setting a very specific vision of a business, and you're very much focused on that vision, so that you almost don't feel the little bumps in the road as much. And actually you do get there. Yes, you still have to strategize for those, and you can spend a bit more time doing that, but the reality is we're sort of, the way we've done our business, we've never written a business plan. We've written very detailed vision, very detailed mission in terms of around what we're trying to do. We're very good at sharing that with the whole team, so the whole team understand what we're trying to do, but also they believe in what we're trying to do, so everybody is almost moving forward together. And that eradicates like a lot of those little things where we don't necessarily see them in our business as much as perhaps somebody else who's very in the now. So a lot of people run their business in the now, and our job as accountants and our job as business advisors is to try and pick their heads up and let them see forward, and then help them apply what they want to, help them look forward and project where they want to be, and then try and deal with today and say, well, what changes are you going to make today to make sure that's actually a reality.
Before we move on to maybe some more, we'll go on to the industry topics as well in a sec, but just before we do that, I'm just quite intrigued actually. Do you find our clients sometimes a bit shy and forthcoming and going back to their why, or do they forget their real why? Is that a process that can be quite...
I think the good thing is when we're doing this with a client that we've known for a long time, there's a big trust relationship, so their freedom to share and open up, and often sometimes they trigger the conversation because they've had enough, or they've really challenging where they are, and that's a great place for us to come in and help them with that. But perhaps when you start with a new client, they're a little bit more guarded. They've come for a conversation with an accountant, and that accountant starts talking about dreams and of the future, and what do they want to achieve, and asking whether they want to carry on living where they live, or what's the aspirational goals, and and talking about risk and time rather than talking about accounts and tax. So often you can find people a little bit guarded, and you have to kind of break that down a little bit and spend a bit of time. And sometimes you might see that there's an issue there, but actually we'll start on accounts and tax. We'll talk about the sort of normal services and the normal things that we do. And remembering this is something that's evolved over our kind of life cycle as a business. So we haven't done and talked in this way for 10 years. It's very much over the last 12, 18 months that we've decided to take this viewpoint, because we've seen so much of it in terms, and some of it, you talked about wanting to know my time in accountancy and everything else. A lot of this advice that we give is born out of working this out for us as well. Just to say that we had a big vision as Sempar and everything went to plan. It's been a great journey, but we've had some hard yards, and we've had some, we've very much walked out of that office especially when it was the two of us at the start at 2:00 in the morning, and we've done all the midnight oils, we've done the weekends, and so we, a lot of this comes out of us grabbing hold of ourselves and our business, and so there's a big personal bit in there. So I think because you can then relate, it breaks some of them boundaries down, and the trust comes to be able to share. But it can be a challenge sometimes, and it is, you think, and that's the case for any advisory person, is that you can often see the solution before you sometimes see the problem, or you can often see where they need to go. But you actually, if you just go straight in, they might not believe you, and that's the problem sometimes, is then they won't do what you think they should do because they haven't got that belief in you yet, or belief in Sempar. So it is sometimes nurture first. And
so let's go on to accountancy. Accountancy doesn't have to be boring, does it, Steve?
No.
Accountancy or tax, I think we've already established that from the conversation we've already had with the background of Sempar and everything, and the culture. But what is there anything at the moment that is really coming up for 2026 which could be affecting businesses of all sizes?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of uncertainty. The last two budgets, really. I think there's definitely a wave of change that feels like, I always felt like the budget always took something and gave something back. It felt like there was, there might be a tax rise, but there'd be grant funding for plant and machinery, or there'd be this incentive or that incentive. So I always felt like that was always there was always a kind of balance to the budget, and it feels like in the last 2 or 3 years that's very much changed, where it seems to be that businesses are copping it really for whether that, obviously not to get too deep into politics, but it feels like for me that the way where we are currently is that businesses are sort of footing the bill a little bit for failure in other areas, that is a little bit it does feel a little bit unfair. If you take somebody who's, and I always think this is always a good tipping point, if you run your own business and you take you make your money as a business and you take your income, typically anyone being relatively successful is now paying more tax than they actually receive in income. And that's always, it feels like a bit of a tipping point. So I can feel like that there is definitely anxiety, definitely uncertainty around the tax changes. Obviously we've seen tax increases to dividend tax that are coming forward. We've seen property landlords sort of hit again really with another rise if they own those properties in their own name. And we're still feeling the change of the national minimum wage last time, and the NI increases. So there's a lot around the tax issues at the moment, and even more so for clients then to understand that kind of journey that they're on, because you might have clients that are actually ready to hang their boots up and not run their business, and actually how they get out of that's really important for them and their kind of longevity of sort of financial freedom. So I think it's better time than any time for anyone to take stock of why they do what they do, because I don't think this is going to change for certainly the next 2 or 3 years. So but it is, I think tax is a really important subject, and especially anybody either starting in business or looking ahead, to be able to almost see, what does that mean for me? What does that mean for my personal life? What does that mean for my business? Am I really taking the right figures in? Because I know we talk a lot about the theoretical side and the vision piece, but we're still advocates of cash flow management. We're still advocates of, having those financial principles in place. It's just not necessarily letting them drive your decision making. So it's really important that people look at the tax changes. If they don't understand them, then ask somebody who does, and really make sure that they're modelling that so they know where the bumps in the road come. But I definitely feel like that we're probably in this sort of climate of tax change for the next 2 or 3 years at least.
And I'm just going to come back, coming up to 10 years for Sempar, for yourselves in business. If there is anybody, any startup or anybody even thinking about starting a business in 2026, you've just mentioned there, you've had your own experience, your own journey, and you've built a business up. You've just mentioned all the things to be aware of, especially with taxes and everything. But what would you say? Is there anything that you would say to somebody, or maybe advice, or just a bit of friendly advice on what to be aware of when they're actually setting up their own business? I
think certainly get on with it and do it. A lot of people sort of sit there pondering and thinking, and and actually understand what's the risk of having a go. Let's have a go at this and see where it goes. What does that mean for me? I mean, certainly for us and our journey into owning our own accountancy firm, we really reached just a point where we knew we had to kind of go and do it ourselves. So we did have to just get on with it, and I feel like there is a lot of people who hesitate to sort of, there's an uncertainty. So if there's something blocking you in terms of making that first step, then find somebody to like almost be your mentor, talk to regularly. Somebody, and lots of people who have made it, done it, will always give people time. You find that actually they have more time to give, or they, even if they haven't got the time, they probably still give it. Find somebody who you they have aspirations to follow or do something like, or like the way they've done it, and just say, can I buy you a coffee? Can I have some time with you? Because I feel like that sometimes that's just enough to get somebody to have a go. But I think if you're going to have a go, really try and have a clear vision of what you're trying to create. If you need to do business plans and break that down, then absolutely do that. And like a big believer in modelling things and looking at everything, but really sort of make sure that there's a purpose and a vision behind it. If you're doing something that you believe in, then you're more likely to be successful than just having a go at something you don't quite believe in. It has to be something, certainly for me, don't get involved in anything that I haven't got full belief in, that I don't see as adding to my purpose, and that hopefully helps me make things more successful. But certainly that bit of really understand where you want to be and really go into detail over that vision. That vision will guide you when the times aren't, when the times aren't great. But there will, everyone will have this kind of up and down to any sort of business journey. We've seen that ourselves. We've seen that with clients, that no day's the same. Things come out of left field. There's lots of things, and you've got to have a belief system. We have a saying at Sempar, which is do the right thing. So if something happens that isn't what you would expect, what's the right thing to do? And I always feel like you get paid back on those actions. But in reality, for me, advising let's just say a startup, it would be, really write that vision down, really understand it, really start to believe in it, share it with people, get other people to challenge it. You're coming at something from probably quite a naive state in terms of get a really good advisor, somebody who's going to tell you other things that maybe a mentor won't share, in terms of what is the current tax system, what does that look like, what does that mean for you, how are you gonna put your accounts together, what softwares to use, build, how do you automate things. So for me, it's helping them spend as much time as possible involved in their own growth, in their own business development, and not in the admin of the business. We're in an AI world today that is absolutely, most things can be automated. So let's make sure they're as efficient as possible. You don't want to be losing your night time to writing in a book or typing in a spreadsheet today. A lot of general bookkeeping can be automated and dealt with. So having the right people who've got the right skills and tools to help you protect that time, and going back to that personal bit, that wealth, that time, that risk, be really clear on them from day one. How much time do I actually want to give? Now, as somebody who was given a significant amount of time to his own journey, I would say, be prepared to go break them but only break them for the right reasons. So the norm has to be like this, but you might have to break them now and again. But make sure they're well thought through when you do break them, and you always have planned to get back to those principles. That's something really important that but because now and again you will have to work hard. You will, there's no easy way of starting a business and creating a business, but have those principles in mind of like, this is where I want to be. In 3 years' time, I want to be here. I know on the way I'm going to have to do some work, but I've always got this in mind, and I'll always measure against it as well to make sure that okay, how many days this year did I meet these principles? That's really important, and something obviously that we've put into the book that we've written around this idea is always to try and measure against what you're doing to what you wanted to be doing, and making sure that gap doesn't get any bigger.
So one final question, Steve, and then we're going to have to say goodbye for now. But I'm just going to ask you quickly to mention your book. I do believe it's called Freedom First.
It is.
When did this come out, and where can people find it, and why did you do it?
So it's on Amazon. It is called Freedom First. It came out last year in October. We haven't really, like most things, we haven't really shouted too much about it. It was really putting a lot of this kind of personal approach into something so somebody could understand it. So often we give it to new clients or existing clients who are starting to think about this, and it's definitely written in a challenging way. It's a sort of get up off your bum and have a look at yourself kind of book, really. So it will slap you around the face a few times. And
is that why you give me a copy?
But it will say, is this really what you want, and what you've got, is it what you want, and how, and it will help you step by step change that place. Now obviously what we're able to do then is wrap the client round where the bits they can't do or want support on, we can then provide that support. But it is a self, in a way, it will take them on that journey of really challenging them, and it, so for me it was to underpin what we try and do. So we've made this change over the last 2 years of how we look at people who come and see us, and how best can we help them. And this was somewhere, so for me it was important to put that into words, to be able to show somebody, this is what we're trying to do. And it's another way of perhaps breaking those barriers down. So when you do meet somebody new and they feel like maybe that they've got some of the problems and the challenges that being ingested in that business gives you, but they're a bit proud maybe and don't really want to break it down. It's that slap across the face and saying, is this really what you want?
Yeah. And
there's a better way, and that hopefully helps us then engage with them better. So it's a bit of a marketing book maybe, but it's also there's a lot of in the book which are lessons that we've learned over the years as well. So
a lot of true accounts.
True accounts from an accountant. Yeah.
Steve, thank you so much for coming on Business Spotlight. Congratulations again on 10 years coming up and on the book.
Yep.
And hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Yeah. Cheers, Sonia. Thank you.
That's Steve Timmis from Sempar here on Business Spotlight with me, Sonia Farrell.
Business Spotlight, shining a light on our local business community. Brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.